As always, we'll start with a look at global energy commodities. Of course, a lot of anticipation and suspense around what Israel's next move will be in the Middle East crisis. But Brent settled lower on Friday to close the week at 0.39% points down at $79 per barrel. WTI was also down, closing at $75.36 per barrel. Natural gas was also down at $2.62, but gasoline was up by 0.33%. Let's take a look at equity markets around the world, starting, of course, with our very own Nigeria. The all-share index ended the week on a relative high, closing by 13 bips, up by 1.3%, with 97,606.63 points, over 6,000 deals, and about almost 305 million shares traded to a value of 5.59 billion naira, and market cap ending the week at 56.08 trillion naira. Let's take a look at Africa. Pretty much all the African markets were positive. Johannesburg, Ghana, Accra, and of course Nairobi in Kenya, which was up by 1.12% thanks to some banking stocks and Safaricom. But Casablanca in Morocco was almost flat out at the end of the week. Now to Europe. Europe, I think it's pretty bullish across the board. You can see the Euro Stock 600 was up by 0.53%. And of course, London FTSE, Germany DAX, and Paris were also up. Markets generally reacting positively to inflation figures, signs of recovering economic growth, and of course, signs of easing on the monetary policy front. Let's take a look at my top picks from around the world. This week, I'm starting with an interesting move by a 12-strong group of climate experts who reached a deal just this past week on a carbon trading system. Now, the whole idea behind this carbon trading system that it would allow both developing countries and developing world to raise more climate finance. Now, that 12-person strong group of UN experts also include the US and Saudi, who are typically on opposing ends in relation to carbon trading. And all of this is to prep the world ahead of the UN COP29 climate summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, I believe next month. So we'll be watching out very closely for the final resolution to that deal. But this is a big move now. Some consensus we seem to be coming to, hopefully, on carbon trading around the world. The next big story here is that global oil multinational BP has scaled back its energy transition plan. Now, it announced that it was going to scale back last year, saying it would cut oil output by 40% in order to invest more in renewables. But it's making a U-turn, and it's saying that it will stick to its production target by the end of the decade at about 2 million barrels per day. It's actually investing in new offshore oil fields in the Middle East and in Europe. Interesting move here, realizing that perhaps the impetus for the energy transition has somewhat been dimmed by the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which kicked off in early 2022. But it's not the only one. Rival Shell has also done the same. Shell recently actually sold some renewable energy assets and scaled down investment in biofuels. So does this mark a broader shift around the world, particularly around concerns around European energy security? Well, time will tell. But the point is, this multinational is recalibrating its strategy around the energy transition. Ghana has finally concluded the restructuring of its bond program, with some bond investors taking a haircut about 37%. It's now issued new bonds to investors in exchange for their old bonds, with varying maturities, some maturing as far as 2030. You will be aware that Ghana defaulted on its bond almost 2 years ago, but this is actually one of the fastest bond restructuring programs. Zambia, by contrast, taking almost 4 years to restructure its bonds. So congrats to the Ghanaian government. These sovereign bonds have been restructured, and it's starting a new cycle to benefit from this $3 billion IMF funding bailout program that it keyed into some months earlier. Now, global markets have been anticipating the announcement from Chinese Finance Minister Ling Fon about the country's new stimulus program. But as of this morning, we've heard that that announcement was made. It was big on intent, but short on detail. Markets not too happy. I'm sure we'll see the result of that on Monday. But China has been facing some major economic headwinds, and investors and analysts were expecting the government to announce a stimulus of anywhere between, let's say, I don't know, $200 million to $1 trillion. But there was no specific announcement as of this morning. Now, that's very big news there, with this country pursuing an investment-led strategy that has not brought it out of the doldrums in relation to its economy. So let's see how the markets react to that, and let's see if the Chinese government will actually put some specific numbers to the announced stimulus. And of course, the People's Bank of China has been trying to boost the economy in other ways by easing rates, providing liquidity lines to banks across China. And finally, on my top picks this week, the Indian steel magnate and industrialist business tycoon Ratan Tata passed away at the age of 86. Big Indian conglomerate Tata Steels, Tata Motors. In 2000, Tata even bought British tea company Tetley. It also bought Land Rover and British Jaguar. So this is big news for India, which has lost one of its major steel magnates. But the line of succession will continue. Tata obviously plays a major role in investing in natural resources around the world, including right here in Africa in the steel and iron ore industries. So commiserations and condolences to the people of India. That's it for my top picks for this week.